In the Democratic Republic of Congo, there are two huge crises playing out right now. On one hand, you've got this desperate fight to save its incredible wildlife. And on the other, there's this shadow war to stop the next big public health disaster. What we're going to dig into today is how these two fights are actually, and pretty scarily, connected.
Okay, so what in the world does a poached elephant have to do with a global pandemic? I know, it sounds like a weird question, right? But the link is frighteningly real. It turns out the very same things that are pushing the DRC's most endangered animals to the brink, well, they're also setting the stage for new diseases to jump from those animals straight to us. So let's break down exactly how that works.
All right, first up, let's tackle the war on wildlife itself. And I'm not being dramatic here. This isn't just some abstract conservation issue. We're talking about a literal conflict zone. And the casualties? They're some of the most magnificent creatures on the planet.
So to really get a sense of the scale of this, just look at this number, 131. That is the number of elephants slaughtered for their ivory tusks in one single park, Garamba National Park, in just a few months. This isn't just a few bad guys sneaking around. No, this is an industrial-scale slaughter.
And here you can see exactly where this is happening. Each one of those red dots on the map, that's a confirmed poaching incident inside Garamba. You can see how they're clustered together, right? It creates these intense, deadly kill zones that the park rangers are just struggling to get under control.
You know, the thing is, the threat itself has totally changed. We're not just talking about small-time criminal gangs anymore. Today, it's heavily armed militia groups. I mean, these are professional operations. They're using helicopters to spot the elephants, chainsaws to get the tusks out fast, and they're taking out up to 8 animals at a time. And where does all that ivory go? It gets sold to fund their wars.
And it's not just the elephants either. The crisis goes way beyond that. Over in another one of Africa's legendary parks, Virunga National Park, a very similar battle is being fought. This time, it's to protect its most famous residents, the critically endangered mountain gorillas.
And the human cost of this fight? It's just staggering. I mean, listen to this. In Virunga alone, 160 rangers have lost their lives in the last 20 years. These are people, dedicated conservationists, literally laying down their lives to protect these animals.
So what exactly are these rangers up against? Well, for the gorillas in Virunga, it's like a perfect storm of threats. You've got decades of political instability, nonstop pressure from rebel groups, human encroachment with communities pushing deeper into the forest, and now, to top it all off, there's the very real possibility of oil exploration happening right underneath their habitat. Okay, let's switch gears for a second. Because beyond this really visible tragedy of poaching, there's another threat, a hidden one, a microscopic one, brewing in the very same region. And this threat travels from the deep forest all the way to busy city markets. And honestly, it puts every single one of us at risk.
So the key word we need to understand here is zoonosis. It sounds technical, but all it really means is a disease that jumps from an animal to a person. You've definitely heard of these, think Ebola, monkeypox, or even the virus that sparked the last global pandemic. A whole lot of them get their start in wildlife. And believe me, this isn't a small risk. A recent study looked at bushmeat outlets and found that almost 60%, 59% to be exact, pose a high or even very high risk for spreading these kinds of diseases. So yeah, this danger isn't some isolated thing. It's incredibly widespread.
So how does this even happen? Well, the supply chain itself is basically a highway for pathogens. It all starts when an animal is taken from the forest. And they're not always hunted. Often they're just found dead, which could mean they already died from some disease. Then that meat gets transported. We're talking hundreds of kilometers, usually with zero refrigeration. Finally, it's sold in open-air markets with little to no sanitation. Every single one of these steps is a potential point for a virus or bacteria to spread.
And listen, this is not a what-if scenario. Researchers have actually tested bushmeat samples and found live, dangerous pathogens. We're talking about the bacteria that causes anthrax, a virus from the same family as smallpox and monkeypox, even a retrovirus from primates. These are incredibly serious threats circulating in the food supply, and any one of them could trigger a deadly outbreak.
So here's where it all comes together. The really crucial point is that these two stories, the war on wildlife and this looming public health threat, they aren't separate issues at all. They are deeply and dangerously connected. Let's take a look at how.
So if you put the causes of poaching right next to the causes of this risky bushmeat trade, the overlap is just
It's crystal clear. You see the same things popping up again and again. Political instability, a lack of enforcement. These are the common denominators, and they create this kind of vacuum where both illegal trafficking and unsafe food chains can absolutely flourish.
And that, right there, is the heart of the issue. When the systems of government and law enforcement break down, it basically becomes a free-for-all. That's what allows these armed groups to poach elephants with zero consequences. And at the same time, it lets this dangerous, unhygienic bushmeat trade explode, completely unchecked and unregulated.
Okay, so we're facing two problems that are completely tangled together. So what does a solution even look like? Well, the experts are pretty clear. You can't just tackle one side of this. It has to be a united front, one that goes after both conservation and public health at the exact same time.
The strategy that's being recommended really has three main parts. First, you've got to develop and actually enforce strict rules for the bushmeat trade. Second, there needs to be a huge push to improve sanitation in the markets and make sure everyone knows the risks. And third, and this might just be the most important piece of the puzzle, you have to empower local and indigenous communities to be partners in all this, to help protect the wildlife that's literally in their backyard.
You know, as some conservationists have pointed out, lasting change isn't about just building bigger fences. It's about working with people. We're talking about the more than 50,000 people who live in and around these reserves. It's about helping them see the real, tangible value in respecting the rules and protecting the amazing ecosystem that they call home.
So, when you boil it all down, the big takeaway is this. You just can't solve one of these crises without tackling the others. Protecting animals, protecting ecosystems, and protecting people, these aren't separate goals. They're all pieces of the same puzzle, a single, unified mission to build a stable and healthy future for everyone.
And that really leaves us with one final, pretty powerful thought. When we see the struggle to protect a gorilla in a place like Virunga, are we just watching a story about conservation? Or are we actually watching the front line in the battle to stop the next global pandemic? From everything we've looked at today, it sure seems like the answer is a definite yes.